Hello everyone, this is Engineer in Finance. I'm a core engineer who is exploring the world of corporate finance. So today we will try to understand systematic risk and unsystematic risk. I think before we dive into the portfolio theory and things like that, it's quite imperative to understand the risks because even if you create a great portfolio, the first thing you'll look at is what exactly is the risk associated with your portfolio, right? So let's try to make some sense of it. So basically, anyone who have studied finance or even who have started to learn finance, they must have heard about this terms, the statistical terms, sigma, with the standard deviation, coefficient of variation, beta, variance, covariance, correlation, right? So let's try to use these statistics and make sense of whatever is written here. So if you must have seen this graph before, right? So this graph is basically is a relationship between the risk and the number of stocks. If you don't know what that sigma means for right now, you can just understand it as it is the risk associated with your portfolio, which is the standard deviation. So as you can see this in this graph, you can clearly see that on increasing the number of stocks, the risk is getting lower and lower, and it reaches to a saturation point where no matter how many stocks you add, it doesn't reduce the risk. So basically the part of the risk which we can make it zero, we call it as the diversifiable risk, and or in other terms it's called the unsystematic risk. And the other part of the risk which we cannot change by adding those stocks, now we'll talk about what type of stocks we are adding, it is known as the systematic risk. So let's tackle them one by one. So diversifiable risk. So as it is clearly mentioned here that diversifiable risk can be reduced by adding more stocks with negative correlation as of stocks we already have. For those who don't know what negative correlation stocks means, let me give you a simple example. Let's say you created a portfolio with stocks A and B. So this A and B stocks will be such that, let's say for an event X, if the price of A goes up, the price of the stock B will go down. Just the opposite. So that is a layman understanding of what negative correlation stock means. Now let's understand the different types of diversifiable or unsystematic risk. We will not be covering all the risk associated with it, but we'll be covering the two risks, the business risk and the financial risk in brief. So let's start with the business risk. So before getting into the business risk, let me give you a very simple PL statement equation which we are aware of. Let's revenues minus expenses is profit, or let me be more specific, sales minus the operating expense gives your operating profit. So we understand this, right? So what does business risk imply? It basically imply that that risk is that the company fear that it might not be able to cover its expense and make profit, right? Because let's say the fixed costs of a companies are very high, so fixed cost leads to a higher operating leverage and things like that, which contributes to the business risk. Let me know if you want to know more about these types of risk which we are talking about right now. I am covering only in a very brief manner. Similarly, the financial risk is related to the debt structure of the company, like how the financial structure of the company really is. Its debt or equity, if the company has more debt in its financial structure or capital structure, it will have a higher financial leverage. So it will contribute to this financial risk. Now, since we have now covered diversifiable risk in brief, let's talk about a little about systematic risk. Now, from the graph, it is quite evident that this market risk is there. No matter how many stocks you are adding in, it will not go. So basically, this systematic risk is the market level risk, which is something that you have no control of. Let's say the country risk, the political risk, the exchange rates are happening, the exchange rate risk, the recession, all those factors which are beyond the control of a specific individual or a company. So till now we understand that the total risk comprises of two different risks: diversifiable risk or unsystematic risk, and systematic risk or non-diversifiable risk. We understand what it basically are, what how it is affected, and how it can be reduced or things like that. Now, since we are finance guys, we need certain statistical parameters to capture these risks, right? So, so the systematic risk, there's the measure of the systematic risk is done by beta. So beta captures the market risk. Now beta is on another level, guys. Beta is not just about CAPM, it has its own story in finance, which we will be exploring in the coming videos. And then the measure of this unsystematic risk is basically done by this normal standard deviation, coefficient of variation, and things like that. So yes guys, this was the basic understanding of systematic and non-systematic or unsystematic risk. Let me know how you like this video or any other topic which you want me to make a video on. From next videos onwards, I'll try to include some numerical as well, because it's not too much fun without numericals. Uh, so before parting, I have a small question for you guys. You just need to comment what you think about it. Let's say we have two statements. For statement 1 states, for first investment, standard deviation is to be used, and the statement 2 states for diversified portfolio, beta is to be used. So you just have to tell me, are both of these statements correct or any one of these statements are correct? Let me know in the comment guys, and thank you so much for your patience hearing.